Intrepid viewers, coming to you from Sydney, still in lockdown and about to go home to Melbourne, where I'll be doing 2 weeks under house arrest, home confinement. So I'm still, battling on. Okay, now we've got so much to cover today because there's been so many revelations. Let me share some with you in case you missed any of them. You had Keith McCoy. Now, he's a senior executive for Exxon, filthy fossil fuels, the triple Fs, those ones. And somehow there was a leaked memo, or he spoke about it or something, of the 12 US lawmakers he has in his pocket. Allegedly, not allegedly. He came out with this, right? Entertainment purposes only, YouTube. And they include Joe Manchin and Christine Sinema, whoever. Also Maggie Hassan, John Tester, John Barrasso, Marco Rubio. Are we surprised? That'd be a giant no. Name them. We've got them on our side, in our pocket. Can you actually believe it? Of course you can, because this is how they behave. So, one of the first things we're covering today, the Michigan Attorney General has agreed to take on a case that was brought by various ethics groups about these frivolous attempts at reworking the vote count, And the ethics groups have said, not only are these invalid and unconstitutional, but they're just blatantly a money-raising exercise. So any sort of low-key type appointee can rush in and say, I want a court case about this, and then get money sent to them, to help fight for American justice with these warped, little toadstools that follow this stuff, Anyway, so I'm going to look at the Michigan case. I think Philadelphia is also going to do the same thing. And that's the only way this stuff is going to stop, is by keeping on going until they realise they might, in fact, have some sort of retribution for these frivolous law cases. Right. Okay, Michigan's law case. Michigan's Attorney General law case. All right. Let's just give them an extra shuffle here. Michigan's law. Oh, well, I think that's quite positive for sanity's perspective. It starts off here with the hermit looking at what's going on underground, shining a light on these cases generically, because I think if there's one good court case goes through, it sets a precedent for the others. So actually the Michigan case is super important, hopefully. So there's the hermit shining the light. This, I would think, is the system, the legal system defending what's left of democracy in the USA. It's an uphill battle, literally on top of the hill. Talk about the Alamo. This is the Alamo in so many ways. Okay, it's all about the fine print, which is what this is about, right? Shining the light on the detail. Because I was looking at this through Michigan's Attorney General's perspective. So who is the victor? They are the victor when this all plays out. And it's a victory in some sort for the bigger picture in America, right? The world card here. Hopefully it'll represent the end of one of these ridiculous cycles of just fighting everything. And of course, you know, who pays in the end? We all know only lawyers win, you know. So everything about this is a waste of money, not to mention a contravention of basic fundamental constitutional stuff, recognition of the electoral process. I mean, really, truly. Okay, so I'm going to have a quick look now, just because it'll be fun, of the Yeti's law cases to, I don't know, can't remember who it is, you know, who's kicked him off, Facebook and Twitter. Let's have a look at his, talking about frivolous law cases. That's always been Trump's pattern though, hasn't it? You know, not to pay, take me to court, and then like Trump University and everything, you know, when you lose the case, you just end up paying out without telling anyone and hoping for the best. But he's arguing, or his legal people are arguing, that it is muting his voice, you know, that we are being deprived somehow of the Yeti's intellect and powers of greatness. I mean, okay, so what about Trump's lawsuit? Facebook and Twitter. Facebook and Twitter and Trump. Oh, the tower. Oh, bliss. Okay. Look, oh, that's interesting. This, look, what I'd say here, intrepid viewers, is this. He'll not only lose these, but it's going to make his overall situation worse. How could it get worse, you ask? Well, we'll get to that. The tower. This is absolute and abject nonsense, and it won't fly. I can guarantee you that. The Page of Swords, this is his legal team, who are basically children. I don't care if they're 40, 50 or 60 years old. In legal terms, these lawsuits are badly drafted and do not make sense. Why do they not make sense? This is America speaking. And that's because these are companies, right? They're private companies. So in the overview of what America does and thinks, if you're a private company, you have the right to refuse to have someone on your platform. They are not government platforms. And this whole stupid argument is saying, oh, but he's the president, he should be able to speak, or he's the ex-president, he should be able to speak. Well, yes, except he's broken the rules of those actual companies. Therefore, they have every right to kick him off. This is going to be drawn out for some time. We have to be a little bit patient here. But these three cards are very interesting. Ace of Pentacles, always with Trump, this comes up as fool's gold. And the theft that went on. Okay, now here's your Knight of Pentacles. What's happened or is happening with these is you get to a point very soon, early on in a legal case, of what's called disclosure and discovery. And that means his team have to put everything on the table, right? Where they'll be falling short. But the juicy bit for you and myself is they have to then put out everything he said, because the case is basically What did the Yeti say that made these companies ban him? So everything he said that wound people up, that contravened the actual platform itself and its rules, everything that whipped people up, got people angry, that was an outrageous lie, will have to be listed and publicly talked about. So this is why it'll take a while, and why eventually this is going to backfire so badly. This is another attempt by the Yeti and the Yeti's clan of toxic children to just keep raking in money from everyday punters for these legal furfies. His pattern is he hates the discovery stage of a court case, and that's when they'll back away. Oh, interesting, is it not? Now, before I get on to the next thing, which is what? Oh, in other news, Biden sent dismissal letters to the head of Social Security, somebody Saul, and his deputy. They are Trump appointees. The deputy said, I get it, I'm going. But Saul, whose contract goes to 2025, said, I'm not going. You have to make me. They are so adolescent. Okay, I'm not going to read on that, but it's just a news snippet, because the head of Social Security is a very powerful role, and we'll keep an eye on that. Now we have to have a look at Biden's infrastructure deal. Oh, this is scary. This is so scary. So my question is what? Will the infrastructure deal go ahead in some form? I hate doing these ones. Okay, Biden's infrastructure deal. Biden's infrastructure deal. Oh my Lord. Infrastructure. Infrastructure. What's going to happen with the infrastructure deal? Oh, it gets the tower too, but I wonder which tower. Justice, thank God, more justice. It will be all right. Okay. Looking at these, the tower, when it came out, particularly coming out first, I thought, oh my God. And it could mean that it won't go forward in a form that's even recognised, you know, as a good deal. It could be all over. But the other cards are saying no, it will go ahead. But this, here's the thing. Here's the thing. At the end of the day, most people in America who have a brain and who have a heart and who have some sort of understanding of how the world works want this infrastructure deal. You know, we all know the highways and bridges of America are collapsing, which brings me to the condo I'll talk about in a minute. People want this deal. So it's going to look so bad for the individual Republicans in the red states to not back it. This will actually be the thing that will move a lot of middle of the road people. I think this is really, really important. And for me, it's an example of the Tower card in a positive way. It has to be that dramatic and that total for people to realise they are being ripped off by their McConnells and people, you know, in these right-wing states that are starving their own voters into submission. And you've now got 3 generations in some places who haven't worked. And yet they'll wrap themselves in the flag and rush out and vote for the party that is literally killing them through the opioid crisis, through misinformation, allegedly, YouTube. But it's very dramatic, and a lot of people are sheepish and slow learners. You know, you sort of form your political opinions when you're very young and stick with them to the grave. Well, now you are sticking with them to the grave. You need to rethink this. This is a tower for what's left of the GOP. So, infrastructure bill. There'll be some legal argy-bargy, but it will, after some decision-making, come into being. This is the lovers, a pact, a deal, an agreement at the end. So it's not going to be pretty in the meantime. No. But it will get there in the end. In the end. Okay, I said there was a lot to cover today. Yeah, I think it's coming to the end of the GOP not supporting anything and getting away with it. This is the bridge too far, you know. But nothing's going to change till people stop voting for them. And there's a natural demographic change in a lot of these places, but I think this will push people forward. So this morning, our time, Richard Branson, well, he didn't get into space as it happened. He got onto the brink of wherever space starts. But let me tell you, intrepid viewers, grumpy auntie here, I have to say, I'm really sick of Branson, Bezos, all of them, the big boys' toys, spending these, you know, billions of dollars on these space fantasies, when really the responsibility is with all of us. If we screw up the planet so badly you can't live on it, their idea is, well, it won't matter because I can take all my rich friends and just go and live in space and have Mar-a-Lago on Mars. Mar-a-Lago will take on a whole different meaning. It's not right, viewers. I don't like it. So there we have it. So in other news, catch up on Brittany. I did another mini read myself on Brittany when she lost that court case. Now, we don't know behind the scenes how off the rails she was, but I find it a strange court case. So I suspect there'll be momentum around a support Brittany thing. And I think eventually she will get to handle her own affairs. So fingers crossed on that. Now, what's happening here? Oh, I said I'd speak on the condo. Now, this happens to be the first. And it's inevitable that other buildings will follow. And we are in the same situation in Australia, and I'm sure in a lot of other places. What happens with these high-rise buildings? And I know a lot of construction workers, don't ask me how, but I do. And they will come back and say, after doing shifts, you know, pulling all-night shifts on these huge complexes and stuff, they said over and over and over, the shortcuts are really dangerous. So what happens, there was a great expose on our ABC News about this. What happens is a developer wants to build a condominium. So they get an architect to draw it up and an engineer to do their thing, and you have the paperwork. Then you sell to the punters off the plan. Look, architect designed, engineered by. As soon as they're sold, they sack the architect, they sack the engineer, and they get the builder, the main builder, to read the plans and do the stuff. The problem is they are not actual engineers. Most professional builders are really good at what they do, you know, and most of them could work out the safest way to do something. And that's okay if you're just building a bungalow. They can work out how to keep it up. But when you're dealing with these high rises on shifting sandy soil like Miami, and wind volatility, you know, with high rise, and all, they simply haven't got the engineering experience to factor in all this stuff. It's not their job. And so these buildings have gone up everywhere and often on the coast. And sadly, we're going to see more of it. You know, it's inevitable. And then the buildings aren't maintained and so on, because the real cost of keeping these buildings going would mean the annual fee would be very high and put off buyers. So they don't do the work that needs to be done to keep that annual fee low. Then what happens after 30 or 40 years? Exactly. Right, so that's an issue. All right, so blessings for all those who are in the path of fires. You know, I always feel for you. Also, in other news, there's so much news at the moment. I'm going to be doing a live thing with HOGARTH tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock my time, which is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in the States. 8 p.m. And you have to work it out if you're on the West Coast or whatever. But we've only done one. It was huge fun. We had an absolute ball. So if you can join us, please do. Okay, so take care and I love you. Besitos. Ciao, ciao.